So hello and welcome yet again to Restore GBNI Live, and this is the second live that we've had in 2 evenings. Last night we had a live which went out to the people of Northern Ireland, and it done very well. It done very well in terms of numbers. So I would like to ask the people on their screen, and I can see the numbers building as we speak. So I would like to ask everyone if you could please share the broadcast out far and wide, because we can't rely on the social media platform to alert people to the fact that we're here, and with some really interesting and significant things to talk about this evening. Right now, if you look at your news, what you'll find that the British government, Boris Johnson's government, they've done a deal with the European Union, and they're still negotiating in terms of what it is that they're going to agree in terms of Brexit. You know, we all voted in great numbers. 17.4 plus million people voted on the 23rd of June 2016. And the reason why we went to the polls was that over the years, the EU, they had been acting like a dictator, and they had been seeking to remove more and more of our laws, and more of our Britishness, and more of our rights as British citizens living here in the United Kingdom. And the United Kingdom, let's not forget, it's made up of 4 constituent parts, and those constituent parts are coming from England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, and there's not one of those places that is any less unionist in terms of the United Kingdom than another. And here we have a situation today which is developed in 2020, in December 2020, at the 11th hour, just before the date that we're all meant to be leaving the EU, all parts of the United Kingdom. Here we have a situation that is developed that Northern Ireland is going to be annexed from the rest of the United Kingdom, and that is a very serious development. And here's why that it's a very serious development. I mean, over a time frame, I have been arguing consistently that if this happens, if there is a backstop put in place, if there is divergence in terms of trade between any constituent part of the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland, well, what that would do is that would put in place the breakup of the United Kingdom in its embryonic form. And I genuinely believe that there's politicians within our own government at the minute, within our own political parties that we support, and that's right across the United Kingdom, no matter why you're in Northern Ireland, no matter why you're in Wales, no matter why you're in Scotland, or no matter why you're in England. There are politicians that are seemingly on our side, but believe me, people, if you look at the evidence, they mean us most harm, and they have got to be our biggest enemy right now, because you can trust or you can look at people and you can understand that if there were outside forces that meant us harm, and if they were to do, they were to try every trick in the book to try to divide the United Kingdom, well, you can understand that. But what you can't understand is your own government, your own British government, and people within your own British government actually putting in place, as I said it before, the breakup of the United Kingdom in its embryonic form. Now, let's just understand for one moment what this actually means. I mean, I'm sure that each and every person on the screen, we subscribe to the Union flag. You know, that great Union Jack, which represents all nations of the UK, you know, whether that be Northern Ireland, England, Scotland, or Wales. And, you know, in that flag, basically, we have crosses, we have Christian crosses, which represents our Judeo-Christian values, the values that the West was built upon. And those values give you a thing called free will. And right now we have free will versus totalitarianism. And if we are part of the EU, if that we fall into the trap of globalisation, well, you see, those values, your absolute right to choose this day what you will serve, whom and what you will serve, your absolute right to free will, well, look, that will be taken away under totalitarianism. And this is exactly where we stand today. And that Union flag that we all support, that Union flag that so many people over the years have fought and died and went to war and stood under in order to protect the people of the entire United Kingdom. And people, let's not forget, from all constituent parts of the United Kingdom, they gave themselves to stand between assaults on our way of life and a sense of normality for the people of United Kingdom. And that flag represents those people. And that represents the sacrifices that they have given throughout the centuries. And right now, right here in December, and what Michael Gove done yesterday was he has put in place the rendering useless of that Union flag, because if Northern Ireland is separated from the United Kingdom, now here's exactly what happens. I would like to play a video, and I warned of this a few months ago. I've been talking about it consistently, and I would like to just play a little video just to let you understand how serious this whole situation is. Because if Northern Ireland is separated from the rest of the United Kingdom in terms of trade, well, that doesn't sound like a big thing to people. But, you know, myself and others have argued that what that will do is that will put in place the breakup of the United Kingdom in its embryonic form, because Scotland will demand the same. And Scotland will demand that they are part of the single market, the single EU market. And Scotland would demand a divergence away from England and the rest of the United Kingdom. And who's to say that Wales won't do exactly the same? This evening we have two people. We have two Councillor James Dalton we have on our screen, and we also have a man who's familiar on screen here with us at Restore GBNI, a man called Ian Gorman. And what we're here to do is that we're here to discuss what is happening. And really what is happening right now, I mean, it's not consistent with British unionism. That union, the Act of the Union 1801, which really put in place some ground rules for the trade right across the United Kingdom. That Act of the Union, it's under threat today, and that law still exists, and that law is still in existence today. So right now, what I would like to do is I would like to play you a little video from a man from Scotland, and we'll talk about it whenever we come back. And whenever we come back, James, I would just like you to come in and give your opinion on what you hear with reference what this man has to say.
Scotland will be missing out on Brexit conditions like Northern Ireland's. He made the claim at the House of Commons.
It was confirmed that Northern Ireland is getting the best of both worlds, access to the EU's single market and customs union. This is great news for businesses in Northern Ireland, but at least Scotland, who also voted to remain, dealing with the hardest of Brexits. What is good for Northern Ireland, Mr. Speaker, is surely good enough for Scotland.
James, what is good for Northern Ireland is good enough for Scotland. And this is the thing that we've been warning of. This is the thing that we've been consistently saying, that if Northern Ireland diverges in any way from the rest of the United Kingdom, well, as I say, that's the breakup of the union put in place in its embryonic form, because Scotland will fight tooth and nail to have exactly the same circumstances. Your thoughts on it, James?
Well, we're in the latter stages of this phase of Brexit. And what you've just played is an excerpt from a guy called Ian Blackford. Now, he claims to be a Scottish nationalist. What is he? He's a voice. He's a mouthpiece of the EU. He's a globalist mouthpiece. He's a mouthpiece of big business. Look at his history. Look at his history in banking, Deutsche Bank, the financial collapse. These people are stooges. Now, if you actually think that these people are sincerely looking towards solutions for the people of Britain, then have a little bit of a rethink, because you're deluding yourself. What we're seeing are actors in a play, and what we're being sucked into when we're talking about this issue, as we got sucked into before the last general election, and we're sucked into it, and it's dictated to by the politicians. They already know what plots and plans they have in place to break the union and to follow their vision, the vision of their masters. Ian Blackford isn't a Scottish nationalist. He's not. Jim Sillars would look at Ian Blackford and say, no, he's not a Scottish nationalist. He's got no interest in Scotland. He's working for globalists. He wants to be part of a different union, just not one with England and Northern Ireland, but one with Germany, France, whoever. This is the reality. It's just a fraud. What you've played me to me is a globalist mouthpiece who's in an elected position making our laws in our United Kingdom, but all the time only one objective, one goal, and that's to destroy the United Kingdom. And one thing that you did say, John, which I would disagree with, is your description of this being the embryonic stages of the breakup of the Union. These aren't the embryonic stages. The embryonic stages, we've got to go back to before I was born. The con, I mean, you've shown me Ian Blackford. You could have shown me a Labour Party politician. You could have shown me a Conservative Party politician. But they're not politicians for political parties with any interest in the rights, the inalienable rights fought for over centuries of the people of the United Kingdom. So each and every one of us, you're in Northern Ireland. I'm in England. You've had guests from Scotland and Wales. But we're all the same. We're all under one flag, one union, and we shouldn't be even accepting the terms of the discussion. Ian Blackford, what can I say? He's not working for you. He's not working for his constituents. He's working for his globalist paymasters, and he's paid very well. And funnily enough, they get his pay from our back pockets, just to rub it in a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. James. James, so what I would like to do is that I would like to invite in our other guest. That's a man called Ian Gorman, and Ian was on our stream with us just a few weeks ago. And as I say, I think people quite enjoyed what Ian had to say. But before I do, I would just like to thank everybody for turning up this evening. I mean, you can see the numbers going up, and the numbers is doing very, very well. And I would just like to ask you, it's not just about, or just like to suggest that it's not about us just on the screen. It's about you too. And I would ask you to share this broadcast far and wide, to ask your friends and your family to come and join us, because together we are strong. And there's only one way of turning things around, and that's when people stand together. And when politicians understand that a great deal of people has come together in order to fight for their survival in a meaningful, proactive way. You see, that's what makes politicians listen. So if we want to try to change things, we have to stand strong, we have to stand together, and we have to show a united force right around the United Kingdom, because make no mistake about it, whether you're in England, whether you're in Scotland, whether you're in Wales, or whether you're in Northern Ireland, this just isn't a threat to the folk in Northern Ireland. This is a threat to the entire United Kingdom. And if we do nothing about it, it's curtains is the reality. And yeah, I mean, I'll agree with you, James, whenever you said that it began in its embryonic form quite a few years ago. You're absolutely right. Here in Northern Ireland, I mean, we had the Anglo-Irish Agreement, which was signed by Margaret Thatcher in 1985. And, when I was only a young man and around that time, and just a few years later, 5 years later, we had the then Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, a man called Peter Brooke, and he whimpered these words, he uttered these words, and these words were exactly this. He said that Britain had no selfish, strategic, or economic interest in Northern Ireland. And Patrick Mayhew, he mentioned those words 3 years later in 1993. So 1990, 3 years later, 1993, he mentioned those words again. And ever since that day in 1990, when Peter Brooke uttered those words, incrementally, Northern Ireland has been becoming less and less and less British as the time has went on. And we have seen successive governments, no matter whether Labour or Conservative, delivering exactly the same thing to the people in Northern Ireland. And I'm going to make a huge claim here, but I believe that we are Hong Kong in waiting, and not just us in Northern Ireland, but I also believe where there's contested territory, where the United Kingdom is involved in it. For example, let's take the Falklands, let's take, say, Gibraltar, let's take even the Channel Islands is the situation. I believe that those contested areas may be handed back under the project of globalisation if we don't try to stop things, and we don't try to stop things soon. So I would like just for each and every one of us to, I'm going to bring a man onto the screen here. It's Ian Gorman. He's a good man. As I say, we enjoyed the chat from a few weeks ago, and I would just like to welcome Ian. And Ian, whenever you come in, I mean, we would just like to give us your thoughts on what you just seen there with that Scottish nationalist, literally taking advantage of the fact that Northern Ireland has effectively been shafted by Michael Gove and the Conservative government just yesterday. So I'd like for everyone to welcome Ian into the stream.
Hello, everyone. Okay, the thing that really got me was that Blackford said that they were somehow getting the best of both worlds, and all I heard was one world, and it wasn't a very good one. So, I mean, yeah, why would anybody be surprised that the SNP would be playing this game again? And, you know, Plaid Cymru down here, and actually probably the flipping Labour Party down here will be trying to push the same thing as well. You know, it is ridiculous from a sort of constitutionalist perspective that this could ever have been agreed to. And, you know, hope, I mean, there's always hope that somehow this is all going to fall apart with the EU and none of this is ever going to come into play. But as James points out, you know, there's a lot of forces out there that have been pushing this agenda for a very long time. And I mean, I'm not surprised at all, you know, that the SNP's jumping on this. And, you know, I'm sure, you know, a lot of, you know, the relatives back up there in the Glasgow area right now are just, you know, fuming as usual whenever the SNP comes out with this crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's definite. Look, again, I would like to just play another little video that we have that we're going to pop up on screen here, and I would like to ask our audience, the people that is watching the stream this evening, and our guests. I mean, pay attention, pay very, very close attention to these words. And these words, I mean, it really says it all. It says that our own politicians, they know what's happening. They know full well what's happening. They understand the full implications of what's happening, and yet seemingly they're not doing anything about it. I mean, I don't see any politicians screaming from the rooftops. I mean, I hear them paying lip service to things, but I don't see them fighting to defend, to protect, and to enhance the United Kingdom in a meaningful, proactive way. And I mean, have these mainstream politicians, no matter whether they're in Wales, no matter whether they're in England or Scotland or Northern Ireland, have these mainstream politicians, have they literally rolled over to this project of globalisation, and have they literally got their feet onto this table on the promise that they will be okay? And I'm going to refer to a speech by Edward Carson, which happened roughly 100 years ago. And Edward Carson talked about that we were only humble rungs in a ladder that helped the Conservative Party climb up into power. And once in power, they kicked away the ladder with no concern for the people that they've left behind. And you know something? I say exactly the same. I level the same charges to our own DUP. Now, I know that our DUP are under extreme pressure at the minute, but you know something? Some days you've got to stand up for what is right, and you've got to defend it, and you've got to protect and enhance what is right. And you know something? No matter why you're a politician, a career-minded politician or not, you know, you have an obligation, you have an onus or responsibility to stand up for the people that has elected you, that has sent you into office, to fight for them and to defend and protect them. And you know, I don't see that right now. I don't see that from our mainstream politicians. So I'm going to play another video. I'm going to make a quote, and then I would like to move around our screen, and I would like to literally ask a few questions to the people on the screen. So here we go with another video.
Willing to accept any checks across the North Sea, even if they are of a regulatory nature, not customs checks?
No, and it's been very clear all along. That has been our one red line, that we cannot have either a customs border down the Irish Sea or a regulatory border, because that would make us separate from the rest of the United Kingdom. And that doesn't work from a constitutional perspective, and it doesn't work from an economic perspective either.
What if there was some political declaration that, okay, we have to agree to the possibility of checks, but they'll never be used? There's no way that they can add some language that would make you happy with any kind of the extra checks?
No, because of course that would impede the constitutional integrity of the United Kingdom.
So I'd just like to quote from a few words at the end of that video. And when Arlene Foster was asked about checks or regulatory checks or additional checks or a small amount of checks on the border between the rest of the United Kingdom, between England, Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland, well, what she says was that that would impede the constitutional integrity of the United Kingdom. Now, I'll just make people aware here that Arlene Foster has a legal background. Arlene Foster is a solicitor. In the DUP, there are many barristers in the DUP, plenty of legal minds, plenty of people that fully understand the implications of a border in the North Channel between Northern Ireland and the rest of the United Kingdom. So, I mean, my question would be, why is it that they aren't screaming from the rooftops? Why is it that they're not threatening to collapse assemblies, to walk away from institutions? Because here's what it means, and this is a very, very serious concern that anyone living right across the United Kingdom should have. When we went to the polls on the 23rd of June in 2016 to vote for Brexit, and the reason why that we did do that was because, as I say, the EU were subjecting us to creep, where they were removing more and more of our laws and our rights and our Britishness and everything that we stand for. And, you know, we had to do something about it. And the people went to the polls and the people voted in great numbers to leave the European Union. Now, there's a huge difference between the European Union and Europe, because the people in Europe are still our friends. You know, our trading partners right across Europe are still our friends. But unfortunately, the people at the head of the EU, they have become a dictatorship, and they mean as much harm to the countries right around Europe as they do to us. And the people in the United Kingdom delivered a resounding out that we wanted to leave the EU. Now, here's the implications of what Arlene Foster had to say. Is that, you know, take myself for an example, as part of Northern Ireland. I mean, I made up one of those 17.4 million plus people. I mean, my vote basically went towards making up that number, which won that referendum. And here's the implications here. If I'm going to be separated from the rest of the United Kingdom, I mean, I'm British, you know, British to the core, 100% British, and nobody has the right to remove my Britishness or to say that my vote in some way is some sort of second class vote. Because if the people of the United Kingdom, whether that be in Wales and Scotland and England, get to leave the EU, but I have to have a half measure of that where I'm still linked to the EU and the EU customs or the EU single market for trade, which puts us in the place that we have tariffs put on our goods and so on. Do you know, if that's the case, you see, what that does is that is discriminatory. That is against myself as a person who has every right to democracy, the same as every constituent right around the United Kingdom. So, I mean, that's the seriousness of it, James, and that's how I see it. And if you heard Arlene Foster right there, she says that what it would do is it impedes the constitutional integrity of Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom and the rest of the United Kingdom. Your thoughts, James?
Yeah, my thoughts on it's an interesting interchange and a very typical one. What you have there is not a reporter asking a question. What you have there is an activist actively engaging in the debate from a partial perspective, getting Arlene Foster to justify what really shouldn't need justifying. All our politicians should be there to serve the people of the United Kingdom. Arlene Foster's correct. This is it's constitutionally untenable. We're a United Kingdom. Now, the reason why the conversation itself and the approach of the journalist is normalized is because it's normalized by the continuing existence of the Conservative and Unionist Party, which is neither Conservative nor Unionist. But because the Conservative Party normalize the whole concept of breaking down the United Kingdom. They do it. They don't do it in your face. They say we're unionists. We support the union, but then behind they just work for the same people that Ian Blackford works for, the globalists, because their agenda is different. They're just thinking of the end goal. And if they have to lie to you for 40 years, 50 years to do it, they're holding the ball. They've got the brand. They get the votes. They've got the power. So until there's an acknowledgement within the people of the United Kingdom who want the constitution that we've enjoyed the work of people 800 years ago, 600 years ago, 400 years ago, 200 years ago, more recently in the First and Second World Wars. We've enjoyed their sacrifice because they understood the foundations upon which we now enjoy a civilized, plentiful, relatively healthy, advanced life. But we've forgotten about the foundations. And this is what the people who want to break the union, who want a globalist, who have their own agenda, and their agenda is not one where the British people determine their own futures. And the fact that there are people in Britain who wish to retain common law, the constitutional rights, power of the people to select representatives or a government which will govern on their behalf, with the people being in charge, that's not convenient to the globalists. And the globalists, unfortunately, they are, in our country, as pertains to our politics, they're the Conservative Party, they're the Labour Party, they're the Lib Dems, the Plaid Cymru in Wales, they're the SNP in Scotland, they're the Alliance Party in Northern Ireland, they're the UUP in Northern Ireland, they're the IRA Sinn Féin in Northern Ireland. So, and whichever you look at these groups, whether it's the SNP, you compare the SNP to somebody like Jim Sillars, who was a proper Scottish nationalist, and you could engage in conversation and discourse within our political system because he had a rational, logical view that was honest. The SNP of today is not. It's a globalist. It's taken over by globalists and is pushing a narrative which has got nothing to do with independent governance for Scotland. It's got to do with absorbing Scotland as Region 58 of a new global government.
Yeah. And your thoughts yourself, Ian, in terms of what Arlene Foster said, that any regulatory checks in terms of tariffs on goods coming from the rest of the United Kingdom to Northern Ireland, she says that it impedes the integrity of the constitutional position of the rest of the United Kingdom, or the entire United Kingdom. I mean, your thoughts on that, Ian?
Well, I mean, exactly. I mean, how could it not do? I mean, almost the fact that we're having to discuss whether or not this is a legitimate proposal in itself is reflective of how sort of this whole movement that we're trying to work against has infiltrated our ways of thinking. And honestly, it took me a thought to get that out, because it is so endemic in media and politics. And as you know, I was going to say, like James did, it's like, who in the heck was that reporter even proposing that there could be such a thing as wording in an agreement that didn't mean anything, that nobody was going to uphold? I mean, how incredibly naive have we become that people even think that way? I guess it's, you know, things have got so convoluted and complicated. You know, they're basically, you know, because there's so many laws and rules, and yeah, I mean, I got to say it, right? Arlene Foster's not exactly my type, you know, my cup of tea when it comes to politicians. But on this one, she's absolutely spot on. We can't have any sort of division between any of the constituent parts of the United Kingdom. And actually, I would argue we shouldn't have any with the Irish Republic either. Ireland, whatever happens now after Brexit, Ireland itself is in a terrible position. The majority of their trade is not with Northern Ireland anyway, it's with the rest of the UK. I think it's around 70%. So they're going to be in a heck of a state, beyond being asked to cough up more money to make up for the contribution the UK won't be making anymore. It really doesn't make sense for the Free State, or whatever you want to call it, to remain in the EU now. And we should be pushing that sort of message too, that they would be better off out with us.
Yeah, can I interject here, if I may? Ian's making a really good point, because it's a psychological battle. It's a battle of minds. You look at the Irish perspective as a Brexiteer. What we should be doing is we should be doing exactly what the EU always do, which is talk beyond the sale. So they don't talk about, they go straight into the, let's put a border between Scotland and Northern Ireland. And they know exactly what the reaction is going to be from people who believe in the United Kingdom. It's going to be one of utter anger and despair. How can anybody suggest that? So Arlene Foster, one criticism I have is she goes into defence mode. She goes into the ring on their terms, and then she, as Ian says, she plays a straight bat. She's correct on the issue. But what she should really be saying is that, look, the Irish people, the Irish government is in a right mess. They've got their own problems with respect to a huge mass immigration problem, for one. They've got a problem coming their way when the United Kingdom leaves, and hopefully once we've left. But anyway, we'll get into the future. But the right now is, as far as the people of Ireland are concerned, they need to be thinking what's in their best interests, who their friends are, who their natural allies are. We're between the United States and the United Kingdom, the people of Ireland, and where is their future going to lie? Because what I'm telling you is the EU isn't going to be here; it's going to be destroyed. Because not only is it a poison to the United Kingdom, it's a poison to any peoples within Europe who want to have a future for them and their families, which is one of self-determination, one of freedom. So the EU is going to be history, and the people of Ireland need to wake up to that. Personally, I'm English. I've got lots of Irish friends, but you look at Sinn Féin IRA. I mean, what are they? They're now. They're not what they were 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 80 years ago. What are they now? They're a party that wants to change the constitution on abortion in Ireland, and succeeded in doing it. Unbelievable. They want a union. They don't want Irish people to be free under their own governance. They want the Irish people to be under the whip hand of the EU. And the people who have traditionally supported Irish nationalism, do they understand what they're now voting for? I don't think they do. This is the level of complete takeover that the globalists have. And that's just looking at the political institution, the political parties, before you start on the universities and the schools, where this normalization of, oh, no, you don't want common law. You want European human rights. Oh, no, you don't want to elect your politicians. You want them, the proper experts to make the decisions over in. It's a psychological war. And if people want our union to survive, they've got to start speaking their mind and stop being polite. And they've got to understand what ring they're in. If the unionists for the last 50 years, 60 years, how many can you name that actually went out? And how many English unionists do the unionists in Northern Ireland know or have any respect for? I can only name one that had any interest in Northern Ireland from England, and that was Enoch Powell, and that's going back to before my birth.
Mm-hmm.
It's absent in the Conservative and Unionist Party. They're embarrassed to add the "and Unionist" onto the end of the party name. People need to wake up, and if you want to sleepwalk into a federalist system, then carry on trusting the Conservatives, because this is all a game. You look at the top of the Conservative Party, our cabinet: Boris Johnson, Priti Patel, Dominic Raab, Sajid Javid, Rishi Sunak. Look at what they've done since they've been 12 years old. They're groomed to do a job, and they're not working for the people of the United Kingdom.
Yeah. And that's a fact. And yesterday we heard Michael Gove, and we heard him again today, and we heard him. I picked up on a few words, and he differentiated between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. He didn't talk about the United Kingdom when he was talking about the divergence. So again, I think in these people's minds that they've already got their feet onto this globalist table, and they're looking to set themselves up with globalists, but little do they know that they're not included in the globalisation. Because why? Because they come from this conservative table, and this is what's going to happen to a lot of these people. They will be used like useful idiots, and then they will be dispensed with as if they don't matter. And I would just like to play another video just to show you the caliber of these people. Now, remember what Boris Johnson is doing today. Remember what they're doing in Northern Ireland. They're trying to separate Northern Ireland. They're trying to make Northern Ireland part of the EU in terms of the single market for goods. They're putting in tariffs and borders in the North Channel between a constituent part of the United Kingdom and the rest of the United Kingdom. And remember what these people are doing. And I'm going to say to people, but what's coming down your line is much of the same as what Northern Ireland is being hit with right now. So I would just like to remind people of what Boris Johnson had said just a few years ago when he visited Northern Ireland. And then I would like to ask the question right around the screen here, and ask the people that is watching the debate this evening. I would like to ask the people now, the Boris Johnson of a couple of years ago, when you listen to his words, does this Boris Johnson today sound like the same man? Well, let's just play the video and we'll understand.
And we will be damaging the fabric of the Union with regulatory checks and even customs controls between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, on top of those extra regulatory checks down the Irish Sea that are already envisaged in the withdrawal agreement. Now, I have to tell you, no British Conservative government could or should sign up to any such arrangement. And so
no British unionist or British government should sign up to any such arrangement, any placing of borders between any constituent part of the United Kingdom. Now, bring yourself to today, just transport yourself right to today and ask yourself the question, is what Boris Johnson was telling the people of Northern Ireland just a few years ago, is it consistent with what he's doing? Well, look, that shows you the measure of that man. That man is an absolute and utter charlatan. He's a fraud. That's what he is. That's what the people surround him. That's what they are. Now, as much as that we would like to be able to support the Conservatives, as much because we're conservatives ourselves, but the fact remains that these people have dispensed with conservatism. These people chase what they think is votes, or wherever that vote should be. And these people, they're like chameleons. You know, one day they're conservative, one day they were conservatives in a long distant past. Today, I don't know what they are. James, maybe you'd like to make sense of it, because I can't.
Yeah, it's easy to make sense of when you accept what on the face of it is an unpalatable truth. But I mean, I'm laughing. It's not a laughing matter, and I hope the audience don't think that I think it's a laughing matter. I'm laughing because you've played a clip there of Boris Johnson on stage. And when I say on stage, that's what he is. He's an actor reading a script, and he'll read the script that will have the psychological effect and the only psychological effect is, like me, I'm the good guy and vote for me at the next election. Because this is all part of the game. You mentioned the Conservative. You want to vote for the Conservative. Why do you want to vote for the Conservative Party? That's the question that any Conservative who might be watching this programme, I'm sorry, but I'm going to answer the question as well. Why do you vote for the Conservative Party? Because you look at the word and you think, Conservative, that's me. It's neuro-linguistic programming. So if I want to, for instance, let's take an example, generate lots of racial tension between different racial people, what I will go out and I'll call myself is, I'm an anti-racist. And I'll then do my work to create racial division. But I've got the shield because I'm an anti-racist. How can... Same if you want anti-fascists, if you want to look for fascism, look for anything called anti-fascist. If you want for something that's not conservative, look for a label that says conservative. If you want for something that's a con job operation, look for something with charity in its name. It's neuro-linguistic programming. Labour. Last time I met anybody who either works or is active for the Labour Party who had a proper job, I don't know. I can't remember ever meeting one who knows what Labour even means. Liberal Democrats, they don't believe in democracy. Total contempt for the referendum result, and when the people actually say, this is our decision, Liberal Democrats, get out of here. They have a Christian leader called Tim, what was his name? Farron. Tim Farron, who's says, I'm a church goer, I'm a Christian, claims to be a church goer, claims to be a Christian. But even claiming to, I don't want to get into an argument as to whether he is or he isn't a Christian, but he claims to be one, and that's untenable. How can we possibly have a leader of the liberal I mean, they can't even see the illiberal realities of their own positions. And as I've said before, Scottish Nationalist Party, they're not. They're a unionist party. They just want a union because they hate the English so much. It's bizarre. So watch out for it. If you're a Conservative, you've got to look beyond the badge. You've got to look beyond the brand. Advertisers know why they put adverts in front of people's faces. They know what they're doing. They know how to trap you in with simple sweeties so you think that what they're selling you want. All they're interested in is the sale, and in politics, the only currency that matters is votes.
Yeah, the trades description that comes into mind whenever I think about it. Ian, your thoughts? I mean, we've seen Boris Johnson there really playing to the field and telling people what they wanted to hear. But Boris Johnson is a man which had come out in later stages of what happened over the Brexit process, is that he had written 2 speeches because he couldn't decide whether he was going to join the Leave camp or the Remain camp. And now we're getting to see exactly what our enemies was pointing out, because we wanted to believe in Boris Johnson. Even though that we didn't, we genuinely wanted to believe. I mean, look, it's a bit like what happened here in Northern Ireland, that all political parties stood aside to allow the DUP to maximise their vote at the general election. The same way that the Brexit Party done exactly the same for the Conservative Party, in the hope that what they would do is that they would save the United Kingdom, they would save the people, they would save our Britishness, they would ensure that Brexit would actually be delivered in the way that people anticipated Brexit. And, that measures Boris. I can say exactly the same for a lot of our own politicians. Your thoughts on that, Ian? Your thoughts?
Well, my first thought, which James basically already covered, is that Boris Johnson has a great speech writing team. He can have a speech for any topic, any occasion. I mean, they're clued in. They know what they're doing, and yeah, it is all advertising. I was going to make a comment back. You made a comment about Mr. Gove. I mean, that guy has got to be the biggest patsy in politics. I mean, as bad as Johnson is, in a way, we sort of dodged a bullet. I mean, can you imagine how messed up things would have been, if Gove had made leader of the Conservative Party or the Tory Party. They're not, as you say, they're not conservatives. Yeah, I mean, this is why people get turned off politics. I mean, it is all playing to a crowd, and you think that they're with you and behind you, and then 2 weeks later they say something totally different, and you just don't know where to go. I mean, that's, I guess, why James and I, our own sort of movement is to get beyond this whole party politics charade. We have, party politics is just a bloody game. I mean, it's like being back at university in Glasgow with the debate societies. I mean, that's all it is. It's just one big game. They don't really care about anybody. All they do is care about themselves and whoever's giving them the biggest backhanders at the time. So yeah, we've got to get past this whole idea of party politics. That is actually the poison in the system.
Yeah.
And that's what we're about anyway. In our own position, we're pushing for direct democracy and get rid of the political, these career politician types who are basically just, I mean, they're lying through their faces and everywhere else, just to get reelected and to keep the money coming in. It's just a big game.
Yeah, we'll get to the point where
we'll start with that, John, because again, what you said earlier about the value of votes, and it's another divide and rule tactic. As Ian said, we're looking at there's a much deeper structural problem, and that is the party political system itself, and the wedge, the complete distance and gap and vacuum between those decision makers and the people. And that's where we think that the structural problem needs to be resolved, and we've got our offer for it, and through direct democracy, a Bill of Rights to which we will all people within the United Kingdom be. So when it comes to the votes, your presumption that a vote in Northern Ireland isn't worth the same as the vote in for me as an English person, I've got to say, again, it's a falsehood, because it's exactly the same value currently as a vote in England, a vote in Northern Ireland, and that is absolutely no value whatsoever, because we have no mechanism of accountability. The laws are therefore to be implemented by our overseers where necessary and when necessary and against whoever, because we've had our common law rights removed from us. And again, coming back to the idea of the embryonic stages, we're way past the embryonic stages. If we weren't, you wouldn't be able to get an on-the-spot fine from a policeman for whatever, a parking offence. He'd have to take you through a court of law. We wouldn't have had, we wouldn't have developed this whole industry within our country where we pay people to look at making crimes and making a resource out of taxpayers through fines. That's how bad it's got. We're so lost from our rights that we're beyond, what I'm saying is we're beyond the embryonic stage. And we need to get up to speed with getting those rights back. And the first stage, as Ian says, is we've got to remove this idea that we need to be governed by these different mafias, whether it's Conservative mafia, Labour mafia, whichever mafia it is, that's what it is. They take your money, they enrich themselves, and they take the backhanders, and there's no accountability. We need to bring that accountability back.
Yeah, so staying with the Conservative Party, I would like to just now play you another video clip. And this video clip was from just after just before the referendum of the 23rd of June in 2016. And this was David Cameron, another grand Conservative, another man that sticks to his promises. Let's just look and see what David Cameron was suggesting and what it was that he promised the people of the United Kingdom before the referendum took place. That was before that they understood that the people were going to vote in great numbers, and the people were actually going to take the referendum result, and they were going to claim a victory with the referendum result. So let's just hear what David Cameron had to say, and this will give some more discussion on the Conservative Party. But what we're aiming at here is just to show that politicians cannot be trusted. It's as simple as that. If you want to continue Do the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different outcome if you want. But the reality is that you won't get a different outcome. You'll get more of the same if we continue to put these people in power. And you know something? I believe from the bottom of my heart that we need to break this cycle, and we need to break it, and we need to break it sharpish, because if we don't break this cycle will break us. So I'll just like to play David Cameron here.
So to those who suggest that a decision in the referendum to leave would merely produce another stronger renegotiation and then a second referendum in which Britain could stay, I say, think again. The renegotiation is happening right now, and the referendum that follows will be a once-in-a-generation choice, an in or out referendum. When the British people speak, their voice will be respected, not ignored. If we vote to leave, then we will leave. There'll not be another renegotiation and another referendum. So I say to my European counterparts with whom I'm negotiating, this is our only chance to get this right for Britain and for the whole European Union. And I say to those who are thinking about voting to leave, think very carefully, because this choice cannot be undone.
When the British people speak, their voice will be heard, their voice will be upheld, their voice will be honoured, their vote would be honoured. And you know something? Here in December 2020, from a man, Northern Ireland, and from the people in Northern Ireland, well, you know something? I look at what David Cameron said, and I just wonder what went wrong, because this is how that this entire Brexit process was framed. One vote, no negotiation, we're in or we're out, we're leaving. And, you know, I thought that we were leaving, but seemingly we're not. We're sort of half in, half out. We're separated from our brothers and sisters right across the United Kingdom. There was no, and we'll get onto this in a second, but there's 3 areas right now where they're seriously damaging, you know, treaties and what they say was international recognized treaties that are in place. There's 3 areas where they are seriously getting things wrong, and I have no doubt that there will be a lot of legal challenges against these people. But over to you, James. I mean, what do you think about David Cameron and how that he framed that Brexit referendum, and what should we expect as Brexiteers, having listened to that before the referendum took place?
Well, firstly, the more observant of your viewers will notice that I'm wearing a really awful tie, and I wore it deliberately because it's a grassroots out tie, and grassroots out was one of the movements that was looking to front the Vote Leave campaign in 2015, 2016, and I've got the EU out badge on here. These are 5 years old. 5 years. It took the Americans 11 months from deciding to build the Pentagon to having it completed and people working in it 11 months after making a decision. The British people made a decision. Again, looking at David Cameron's offer, which you say it wasn't a prime ministerial speech. What it was a globalist Remainers pitch pretending to be neutral. What he was saying, he was laying down this is a decisive moment. This is really important. And then, of course, the follow-up was, if you're thinking of voting leave, danger, danger, fear, fear, fear. And it's specifically designed towards, I'm sorry to say, this is, again, excellent speech writing if you want to look at it forensically. It's aimed at instilling fear and specifically in this case, trying to garner a larger Remain vote for women and young people, or people who are more likely to be of a protective, safety first type of emotional person. I mean, it's no disrespect to any person. This is the strategy that's employed. Now, when David Cameron made that speech, his polling was really clear. Remain were going to win, right? He was putting on a front saying, oh, yes, I'm whatever will come, will come. We will implement what you decide. There was no way on earth. The script writers, 1 minute.
We seem to have broke up there a bit. I think we've lost James. I'd just like to sort of say that to Hank, yes, Hank, we'll give you the opportunity. What we'll do is that after the 9 o'clock mark, we'll go to looking at some of the questions. So if you pose your questions on the screen for us, yeah, we'll put it to the panel and we'll try to get some answers. So thanks very much for that. Ian, over to you. If you could just pick up there where James left off.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, to me, when I actually saw Cameron give that wee speech there, I actually thought, okay, this is it. You know, this is the threat. If you vote to leave, basically, we're going to be on our own. There's going to be no links whatsoever. It's going to be, you know, a whole Brave New World sort of scenario out there. And to be honest, I think that is one of the key speeches that got us the vote to leave, because people thought, fine, okay, you're threatening us, basically, very nicely, but you're threatening us. And you know what? Stuff you, I'm going to vote to leave. You know, and I mean, okay, so I'm sitting here in South Wales in a Labour constituency. I think it's been Labour since 1918, right? And obviously, you know, I was very involved in the multiple campaigns down here, vote leave, grassroots out, and even the boys that came over from Northern Ireland to help out. There was a lot of DUP guys came down this way to help out. And, you know, we knew within 20 minutes of opening those ballot boxes in Caerphilly that we pulled it off. You know, the guy, the head of electoral services here walked over to me and said, hey, if this was just a general election, we'd call it right now. It is that solid down here. It was that sort of arrogance from Cameron that made the vote happen. Okay, you know, combined with the fact that Labour didn't really have a position. To be honest, we had no opposition down here. You didn't see anybody else actually out campaigning for Remain. And we walked it. We were absolutely amazed how well we did. I mean, we'd had canvassing returns in saying we had 90% leave votes in some of the streets down here. And we went and redid them because we didn't believe them. You know, so, I mean, people have to realize that David Cameron, yeah, he's another cradle to grave politician. He was born into it. He was educated for it. He was doing exactly what he was told. He thought he was being smarter than the rest of us. And I think normal people saw through it. And that is why, you know, I get people coming to me now saying, oh, well, you know, Brexit, it'll happen one way or another. And, you know, it's sort of like, you guys, you got nothing to do now. It's like, no, that was only the first step in the process. Get us out from under the EU system. Get us back into our own constitutional space. And then there are other things coming. You know, the political class that put us through all this stress and rubbish are going to get their comeuppance one way or another. And hopefully we can do it through our direct democracy platform. And, you know, we just don't need these guys. We seriously do not need politicians of that caliber trying to tell us what's good for us all the time.
Yeah, indeed. Over to yourself, James, to finish off what you were doing.
Well, I know you've lost me mid-rant there about David Cameron. Another one, as Ian's pointed out, he's not working for us. He's been groomed for a position by his globalist paymasters, and he does his job. And he was a pretty good actor, you know, an affable chap. And of course, we saw the reality on the 24th of June, 4.5 years ago. You know, he promised, oh, we'll implement what you decide. But then he goes, hangs up his boots and goes into cashing in on his family's wind farm business, which has been well padded out over the previous few years, thanks to, you know, following these so-called environmental. There's another one, neuro-linguistic programming, Greens and environmentalism. These people have got no interest in the environment or you know, having clean, cheap energy, and it's. But no, David Cameron. What I did want to bring back to is you made an interesting quote from Edward Carson, who's probably a name that most viewers won't have come across. But I believe they have a statue of Edward Carson in front of Stormont at the top of and it's really interesting because what he was highlighting was not necessarily something that's specific to any political party of the day. It's almost the inevitability of the process. You get whether it could be the DUP, whether it's the Labour Party, DUP, Conservative Party, power attracts the disreputable. The disreputable want to get away with criminality. They change institutions and bastardize, if I may use that expression, law and process and our understanding of our rights and processes to engender again. It's self-perpetuating, and that's what a constitution is there to protect we the people against corrupt politicians who take advantage of their of finding themselves in a position of responsibility on public office. So what Edward Carson was describing, a very wise man, describing 100 and some years ago, was merely, it doesn't matter what time in history, it's just a phenomenon that is an inevitable. So, for instance, the Brexit Party, and I in the last general election, we took our badges off. We went to fight for somebody who would stand up in the Houses of Parliament to support the union. So I went to Barnsley to support Victoria Felton, who was standing for the Brexit Party in Barnsley Central. And Ian, I think, went to Blenheim went to support I think it was Richard Taylor, who was standing for the Brexit Party. I think he's obviously he's maybe seen a different path forward for himself. But the reality is, if you think the Brexit Party is a solution, it isn't, and that's not a reflection on anybody who supports the Brexit Party or who sees the problem and thinks that the Brexit Party or Lawrence Fox, for instance, really good guy. He sees all the problems that he sees the real or a lot of the symptoms of the problems, and he wants to do something about it. But replacing what we have with a new, shiny, uncorrupted, what isn't corrupted yet, to replace that shiny new thing would in time attract the wrong people. You see it with the Brexit Party. People are looking to get on an easy, fast track to power. Unless you've got a system and an approach which will tackle the very problem of corruption within the political party system, as we believe we have, and it would be lovely if people want to tell us that we're wrong and we've got it wrong, please do criticise us. Go to 5dd.uk. We are absolutely 100% lifelong to the death in favour of the United Kingdom. That is our country. We want to bring direct democracy, which will, under our constitution, enshrine our inalienable rights that have historically been won, enshrine them so no future corrupt politicians can get their grubby little hands on them, as they've been consistently doing since the Second World War, since Sir Winston Churchill was booed off stage within a week of VE Day at Walthamstow Stadium by the socialists who were waiting in the background. It started within minutes of the Second World War finishing. And people need to wake up to these insidious forces, because they're in the Conservative Party, they're in the Labour Party, they're in the Lib Dems, they're in the SNP, they're in the Plaid Cymru Alliance. I'll let you know more about the characters involved in Northern Ireland politics, but I'll tell you, they're representing 1% at one end, 1% at the other end, and the 98% in the middle in Northern Ireland are being absolutely ignored. Now, look at the Brexit Party. Brexit Party have registered their party in Great Britain. Have they registered it in Northern Ireland? Is Nigel Farage calling for people in Northern Ireland to stand for the Brexit Party? Well, the answer's, well, check at the Electoral Commission yourselves, chaps. When are the Conservatives party taking it in? When are they putting counts? Maybe they've done a little bit better job than the Labour Party, the Lib Dems. Obviously, we're a direct democracy party. We don't see you, John, as any different. I don't see you, John, as any differently to as I see Ian over in Wales. And the Direct Democracy Party, 5-star Direct Democracy Party, registered at its inception in Northern Ireland and on the mainland, because we are a party for the United Kingdom, one country. And I call myself English, and I call myself English, and I proudly do so, because that's what I am. And an Englishman can be a proud unionist, as a Scotsman can be, as a Northern Irishman can be, and as a Welshman can be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, indeed. You mentioned there the Edward Carson speech, and I've just sort of pulled it up, and I would like to maybe narrate some words from that speech. Just to you place these words. I mean, these words were written in around 100 years ago, and you would think literally they were written for today. Excuse me. Sorry about that. What a fool I was. I was only a puppet, and so was Ulster, and so was Ireland, in the political game that was to get the Conservative Party into power. And of all the men in my experience that I think are the most loathsome, it is those who will sell their friends for the purpose of conciliating their enemies. And perhaps still worse, the men who climb up the ladder into power, of which even I may have been a humble rung. And then, when in power, when they have got into power, they kick away the ladder away without any concern for the pain or the injury or the mischief or the damage that they do to those who have helped them gain that power. Now, when you think about what happened in the run-up to the general election, the Brexit Party did actually stand aside to allow the Conservatives to go forward and get elected. And they done that in many areas, and we all know the story. The same in Northern Ireland, where we actually, political parties stood aside right across the board to allow the DUP to get into power. Now, some people would actually question me saying right now that the DUP are doing the wrong thing, that the DUP are not fighting meaningfully, proactively, in a way that defends, that protects, and that enhances the United Kingdom. And I would say the same and level the same charges at the Conservative government right now, is they are not doing the same for the people of England and the people of Wales and the people of Scotland. They are not fighting meaningfully and proactively and in a way that delivers Brexit and delivers Brexit in all of the glory that it was anticipated. In the definition that was given by David Cameron, he said that he talked about Brexit, he framed it in a particular way that we would vote and we would leave if the people decided to leave. There would be no renegotiations. Well, what do we have right now? We have renegotiations. And you see, this is exactly what these politicians do. So this is why I say that I would like to see a new dispensation of politicians that come along, and politicians that want to actually stand. They want to tackle the issues. Yes, that has to happen. I'm hoping that you can still hear me there. Yeah, you can still hear me.
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah.
We would like a set of politicians that would stand up, and they would stand for the people, and they would fight for the people. They would fight for the needs of the people, and they wouldn't deliver the wants of particular ideologies, because that's what I think that's wrong with politics today. I see a lady here on her screen. I've just popped the comment from Emma Shaw. Emma Shaw belongs to a party here in Northern Ireland. I think it's the PUP. Emma, look, I would like to invite you maybe onto the stream on Monday coming. If you would like to do it, leave us a message. And again, we've had people from the PUP on our stream. We've had people from the different political parties right across the United Kingdom. And, these people are direct democracy party operatives. They do actually, they've already, they've stood in elections in Northern Ireland, and I think they aim to stand for more. But you see, what the whole purpose of new faces, new ways forward. If we continue to do the same thing over and over and over again. If we expect a different outcome, I think that we're only fooling ourselves. So, oh, sorry, Emma, you're not in a political party, but look, I know that you're a good speaker. I know that you spent a bit of time last year standing up for the union in the Ulster Hall, and that's just an invite for you to come on. And yeah, I know that the guests would have it would be good listening to you. Let's just say that. So back to these conservatives, back to your mainstream politicians, back to the fact that they're not delivering for ordinary folk, and they're not delivering for the needs of people right across the United Kingdom. And we really do need to change things, because, as I say, we've had too long where we've been promised this, that, and the other at the time of election. And then when these people get elected, what they do is they dispense with us. Once they get our vote, we are only good for our vote. And after they get that vote, it's as if we do not matter anymore. And they don't listen. And if we contact them about issues, they pass us from pillar to post, and they do absolutely nothing about it. Look, I would just like to ask yourself there, Ian. I mean, in Wales, what I'm explaining from Northern Ireland and what my experiences are right around the United Kingdom, do you find the same in Wales, Ian?
Well, yeah, we do, because you've got constituencies here that are entrenched to one party, where there's no competitive politics. There's no reason for example, my local Labour MP to go out of his way to take care of any issues of mine, because he doesn't need my vote anyway. Okay, they've got their system in place. They're going to get back in. One thing I do want to mention quick, people don't seem to know this, that James mentioned there that we've registered the party in Great Britain and in Northern Ireland. I think people should be in on that in itself is a sign of the problem. Why? We're supposed to be one United Kingdom. Why do we have to essentially register two separate parties to be able to stand candidates across all four constituent countries? I'm really a big, I'm not totally opposed to the idea of some sort of administrative devolution, let's say, but this legislative devolution and the variances that we already have are problematic, and we need to do away with those. I understand, Northern Ireland's got different driver's licenses, and I think some of the benefit systems out there work differently, and they shouldn't. We should all be treated the same. It should be totally transparent. If I get up tomorrow morning and I decide I want to move to, somewhere in Northern Ireland, it should be a very simple process. It shouldn't feel like almost as if I am moving to another country. So we've got to, we've got to reinforce the entire structure of the union. There should absolutely be no difference to how a person who's living in Northern Ireland is treated to anyone living in, the southeast of England or anywhere else.
Yeah.
So let's push for that.
Indeed. And yourself, over to you, James. Would you just like to give us your thoughts, please?
Yeah. I mean, as Ian says, that once you understand what the structural problem is, and that is there are the traditional political institutions are not working. They're not interested in maintaining the United Kingdom. What they do actively is to destroy it. And to be honest, you're right, Ian. That's even one that had kind of skipped over. I know there's particular differences within the history of our legislation, but a political party has to go out of its way to register separately in Northern Ireland. Now, that shouldn't be the case. A political party that registers in the United Kingdom should be able to stand candidates anywhere in the United Kingdom. Why does it need to? Now, that's the Conservative and Unionist Party. They could do something about that. They choose not to because they're not a Conservative and Unionist Party. They're a branch of the Bilderberg, Party of Davos, globalism, the EU, United Nations, whatever you want to call whatever you want to call them, all tied in with with globalist interests and not the interests of your baker from Glenrothes or your fisherman from Whitby or your coal merchant from the Rhondda. They've no interest in those people or their families or their grandchildren. They've got an interest in stitching up politics whereby our vote continues to mean nothing. It used to mean something back in the 1900s, but it doesn't mean anything anymore. And we've got that chance. We got our chance in 4.5 years ago was the last time we were heard and listened to. But they didn't do it, did they? They're still clinging on there. They're still clinging on. Will they wear us down? Will we just give it up and just, oh God, you win, you globalists. Just carry on. We can't be, but no. Bad news for you people. There's people who actually love the United Kingdom and are willing to stand up for it and its future. But that needs the destruction of the Conservative Party, the Labour Party, the Lib Dems, the SNP, the Green Party. That's what it needs. I'll let you, John, decide. And the people of Northern Ireland, you need to have a look around. What are these parties doing for you? Where are the... I mean, I've got a lot of respect for individual politicians from Northern Ireland, a lot of them. But they're all tied into this same system, which ultimately is what is destroying us.
Yeah, I'm just looking here at a comment that I'm going to pop up on the screen for really to have an answer. But Denise Jones, Ireland is not British, and the North was stolen from the Irish, caused many people to be segregated, and it's a crime.
Well, it's divide and rule narrative. I mean, people who push that narrative don't want a peaceful future for anybody. Yeah, it's historically inaccurate as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I just asked that question, Denise. I mean, what was Ireland pre, them calling themselves Ireland? I mean, who occupied Ireland? Who was Ireland made up of? I mean, I suggest that you go and you do a Google and you have a look and understand where Irishness came from. That's the reality. That is the reality. And here is the absolute reality. You see, where you were born. I mean, I was born a British citizen in Northern Ireland. My name's John Yates. And, I'm British. I'm as British as anybody else right throughout the United Kingdom. And if you mean that I stole Ireland because I was born here, or I stole Northern Ireland, I mean, I don't know how that works out. But anyway, that was just a thought. And just look, but you know what I'm saying. Look, over to Hank Wissink. Hank, if you'd like to just ask the question or two, there's no problem. We'll come around to actually answering your questions. And this is a message to the people on our screen. And I'd like to say that the numbers has actually stayed with us. And I really, really thank you for keeping the numbers. And let me just explain what Restore is all about. You see, I mean, I see Restore as restoring common sense within politics, restoring the people-politician partnership, which actually should be in existence. I mean, we should elect politicians to fight for our survival, to serve and protect us. We shouldn't be electing politicians in a way that once they get our vote, well, they go and they do what they want. They make promises before an election, and then they go and they do exactly the opposite of it. I mean, it's a bit like, say, the man who put his finger or his hand in the fire. Are we going to continue to put our hands in the fire again and again and again and again? And I would suggest that that is the absolute height of madness to continue to do that. So whilst that we want to work with our politicians, whilst that we want our mainstream politicians to stand with us, to form a people-politician partnership, to actually fight for the things that we need and to fight to ensure that we remain exactly who we are and nobody aggresses against us, whilst we want politicians to do that, well, I'm going to be straight about it, but these people just aren't doing their job. They are not delivering. I mean, as Ian said, or sorry, as James had said earlier, that, if you look at their Democratic Unionist Party or their Conservative Party or their Liberal Democrats, I mean, these people really, they should be taken to court under the Conscription Act, and that's the reality. So look, again, this is not about, I mean, Restore, at Restore, we do not align or affiliate with any particular political party. But what we do is that we want to align ourselves, we want to help, we want to facilitate, we want to promote anybody that wants to do this. And you know what this is? This is who wants to stand up for Britishness, who wants to respect the right of a British person from all constituent parts of the United Kingdom to remain British, who wants to ensure that the United Kingdom remains together because we are stronger together, and that wants to protect the greatest union that the world has ever seen. So no matter what political party that you come from, no matter what ideology you follow, no matter whether you're religious, you're non-religious, no matter what or who you are, if you support those principles, well, Restore is a place for you, and Restore is a very, very welcoming place for those type of people, because like-minded individuals, when they stand together, they can do a lot together, and that's what we hope to do. We hope to provide a platform in order that we can form a powerful lobby, in order that we can promote people who genuinely wants to stand up for the United Kingdom, who wants to fight for the needs of people and not the wants of ideologies. Because if we bring politics back to that place, the place in the middle ground, well, we will make that middle ground the biggest space within British politics. And I'd just like to say one thing before I move on, and we'll go around the screen and I'll ask you your views again and go into Ian in a second. But, you know, is it wrong for me to ask to remain British? I was born British. I was born a British person in Northern Ireland, the same way as a Welshman, the same as a Scottish man, the same as a man from England. And let's not put any gloss on it. Our nationality is under attack from globalisation, and our mainstream politicians are actually facilitating it. So over to you, Ian. I mean, do you think that our mainstream politicians are actually facilitating our demise? And then I would like that question to pass on to James.
I think they are, even those that may not realize it. I mean, it's a part of a system. I don't know how many of the people watching tonight know that the whole concept of the European Union was actually funded by the CIA. It was a mechanism to create a united Europe that would stabilize and be a bastion against the Soviet Union. That was where this whole concept came from. It wasn't even developed indigenously in Europe. It was our good old deep state friends in the USA that put this together. I think the problem is right now is identifying those politicians, especially MPs, who are actually intent on doing their jobs properly. And I don't know very many of them that I would think, fit into that category. I think I know one here in Wales that might. So we really are, we do need a reset. This is sort of our, a political revolution, let's say. Now,
not a great reset, though.
Yeah, we'll agree with that.
Yeah. It is something that, we're going to have to deal with here. And, John, to your comments about Britishness, I've got two Catholic Irish great grandfathers. My name's Irish, for crying out loud. The British Isles have been the British Isles since, time immemorial. It's this whole idea that, there's differences between the people is really only a product of prior political games that were played.
Yeah.
There never was any dislike between, the Anglo-Saxons and the Welsh at the time of the Norman invasion. Everybody has been getting used by the powers that be and turned against one another. It really is that simple. We are really all one people, and Britishness is a culture. You've got Britishness all over the world. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of looking at things and treating other people. It really is bigger than just our four countries here. So, I'm amazed by people who fall into this sort of sectarianist
trap.
Point. But there's somehow something different between Scots and and the English. I mean, the language that was traditionally spoken in southern Scotland and Glasgow and Edinburgh is a form of is an old form of Anglo-Saxon. You just got to watch, if you look at any history shows and see how these borders have moved around over the years. You know, any idea that somehow the borders we have internally between our countries on these islands today actually mean something is ludicrous. For the Welsh government here to turn around and say, oh, we're banning travel from Wales to England. I mean, that's absolutely stupid, because you've got communities here where people have to routinely cross those borders, and the same in Scotland. You know, look at Nicola Sturgeon putting up the price of alcohol in Scotland. People just went down to England and bought their booze there and brought it back over the border. You know, we just got to get away from this whole idea that, you know, we are four separate political entities that can be manipulated and pulled apart. We're not. We're really just one.
Yeah. And yourself, James, and I would just like to say before you go on here, James, is that, you know, we're coming close to a close, but look, I mean, I'm willing to go over maybe 15 minutes if you guys are okay, and if the people on the stream, because we're getting good enough numbers and the people are still commenting, and I think we'll still a bit to get through. So at the end of it, I will say that we'll give the two of you a chance to say your piece and the political party that you come from and what it is that you're promoting, because at Restore, that's exactly what we mean to do, is that we mean to give anybody that supports the union a platform. And one thing I will say before you say your piece, James, is that, you know, you says that let's just hope that it's not a great reset. No, it's going to be a great restore. How does that sound?
That sounds a little bit better, a little like, but a lot less like the neuro-linguistic programming that we're seeing coming out about the Great Reset or building back better. The very same phraseology that you're hearing from all sorts of disparate sources: the EU, the World Economic Forum, Joe Biden, the possibly president-elect but not yet of the United States of America, who knows, the Catholic Church, the Pope's pronouncements, a tweet from the Pope with the word build back better, same phrase. And of course, Mr. Alexander Pfeffel, Boris Johnson, whatever that chap's name is. There's, you know, you were saying it before. Can we continue, you know, voting? You showed the pictures of Boris Johnson. You know, if we're not out of the EU by the 31st of October, you'll find me dead in a ditch. No, we didn't find him dead in a ditch, did we? So the David Cameron episode, these people are actors. Lying is just a script. What are actors but professionals at pretending to be something that they are not? And the phrase that came to mind when you were talking about was fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And people do need to start taking the vote seriously, understanding that the tenuous that these, you know, whatever you want to frame this at, traitors, internationalists, globalists, they're not working for us. I'll use the word traitors. That's what they are. The tenuous grasp that they have on power, the power is with us when we go out and exercise our vote. And that's all they are bothered about. So when the time comes, they'll be your best friend. They'll be giving you exactly what you want. They'll be flying the flag for whatever they think you want the flag flying for. And once you've voted for them, they'd just get on with the plan because they were never interested in you in the first place. Look at Boris Johnson. He had a decision to make in the run-up to the referendum, and the decision was simple. Don't be under any illusion that he wanted to be out of the EU. He didn't. He wasn't torn between the arguments on one side and the arguments on the other side. He was just part of right, guys. Some of us need to go on that side of the fence. Some of us need to go on that side of the fence. And when we get through it all, we can pull ourselves all back together again. But the plan was always remain EU. Destruction of our constitution, destruction of our rights. And that is still the plan of the Conservative Party, whatever you think. Look at fishing last week. Everybody's mind's taken off the ball. What we should be talking about is the historic events that are taking place in the United States of America at the moment, which of course nobody's talking about. The truly global important events right now in the world are taking place in the United States of America. You wouldn't know it, but we were throwing a fish last Thursday. You can imagine the conversation in the cabinet room. We can't have the people talking about the United States corrupt election. Get a load of the press pack to go out and say we've made an agreement on fish, and get another load of the press pack to go out and say there's no agreement been made on fish. And then everybody will be talking about whether there has or hasn't been an agreement made on fish in the back rooms of Brussels for the next 3 days, and they won't be looking at what they really ought to be looking at, which is what is going on in the United States of America and the coup and the Chinese infiltration takeover of the United States. That's what everybody in the world should be talking about right now. That's what our future destiny of Brexit. If you think it's been decided by these clowns in the EU and these clowns in the British government, all of whom have no interest in the British people or British sovereignty, what's important is Donald Trump going to be inaugurated as president on the January the 20th, having been elected in a landslide in November? Not that you'd know that if you were listening to the mainstream media, who crowned Biden the day before the votes were cast, whether they were illegal votes or legal votes. If Biden's elected then it's full bore. You wait. Immigration levels will be going up. The stitching together of ourselves with the EU will be going up. The divide and rule politics will be pushed even more. They might throw a few customs union differentials in to make Northern Ireland people feel as though they're not getting the same rub of it's destructive politics from the inside. And the next chance that the people in Britain have we can gas all we want on the night, tonight on the videos. The only practical thing that people can be doing is organising now, looking at their local councils, looking at the local town councils, starting at the lowest possible level and getting themselves elected next May, if they allow us to have elections, convenient this COVID, for all sorts of reasons, including the removal of our opportunity to tell the politicians what we actually think of them at the ballot box. So if people who really are bothered about the union, you can have all the YouTube channels, and this is what you do is great, and it's fantastic that people can communicate through these means on YouTube. But fundamentally, the practical things that people can be doing is supporting independent, not politically. I'll support an independent. I'm working with the Barnsley Independent Group, for instance, in Barnsley. I'm a five-star direct democracy. We work hand in glove because they're bothered about their electors, and that's it in Barnsley, and that's it. They don't want to impose some worldwide ideology on the people of Barnsley. They want to listen to what the people of Barnsley want, and then they want to implement that in the local council. It's got nothing to do with national politics. And they work with me. I'm not a member of the same party, but we can work together because we've got the same motive, the people and what's in their interests, and preserving our constitution, our common law, and our God-given inalienable rights, not rights that are given to us by a conservative. Oh, we'll allow you to walk out of your front door tomorrow. We'll allow you to open your business. I don't think so. I'll determine when I open my business, and I'll demand a government that protects my right to be able to do that unhindered. And when the government starts acting in a manner which hinders me, the government has become my enemy. And that's where we are in this country. We're governed by people who are our enemy.
Yeah, indeed. I would just like the apology to people for the way that I'm showing on screen. I mean, my camera's acting up and it froze. But let's not worry about that. Well, I'm just looking through some of the comments here. And Neil Smith, what it is, unfortunately, is that we don't actually see the link that you've put up, unfortunately, here on the screen. But yeah, if you would like to maybe explain what it is, by all means, I mean, we can get the message put up. And I would like to say welcome, Neil. And I would like to say, look, if you invite your friends and your family and your associates in your political party, I mean, bring them along to join with us, because for too long, Neil, what has been happening, not just here in Northern Ireland, but in Wales and Scotland and in England, is that people, as you know, they vote for mainstream politicians. And the mainstream politicians, what they do is they take your vote, and at the end of your vote, they then dispense with you once they get your vote, and as if you didn't matter, they just dispense with you. And they do nothing. They don't come around, as we all know, till the next election time, and that's what has to change. And you know, there's grassroots people and there's grassroots parties right across the United Kingdom. And one thing I'll say about the two guys on the screen, they're both from the 5-Star Direct Democracy Party, and I know that there's another man commenting on the screen that was on with us actually last evening. And I'm going to say that these people, I mean, they'll support independence, they'll work with independence, they work with anybody that has the interest of the British Unionist people in the United Kingdom. They'll work to ensure that people's rights and you know, what we do is that we flourish as part of the United Kingdom. And I'm sure, guys, like, without even getting into it, I can understand that it doesn't matter who you are within the United Kingdom. I mean, if you're a newcomer and you've came to the United Kingdom, any constituent part of the United Kingdom, if you support the British way of life, and if you want to come here and you don't want to say force your religion or your, you know, or your nonsense, which a lot of people do, if you want to work to make this place successful, prosperous for each and every one of us to live, well, you know, I mean, from my point of view, you're welcome. And I would say that it's exactly the same for the people on the screen. So we'd just like to, we're coming to a close, but we will give you an opportunity, guys, to talk about the political party, and if you can keep it short. So again, just what is Restore? Restore it's a platform where we would like to use this platform right around the United Kingdom to give people an opportunity to come on to have their say, to say their piece, to form, you know, to bring numbers to this platform, to bring as many people as humanly possible. It's a centralized place whereby that what we can do is that we can discuss our problems. We can talk about the contentions that we're having in different parts of the United Kingdom, and you know, we can understand if our contentions are the same, if our contentions are different. We can share our experiences and how that we've actually dealt with things in the past. And you know, I would say that from Northern Ireland's standpoint, that we've got a lot that we can learn from Northern Ireland, because for years we've been through so many troubles, and for years we've been under threat from then that be the Sinn Féiners, the Marxists, the people that call themselves freedom fighters, but they're no more Irish than, let's just say, that than Micheál Martin is. Because what did Micheál Martin say in the past few weeks? He says that he wants nothing to do with the backward idea of sovereignty. Now imagine a leader of a country saying that. Do you know, it just really, really beggars belief. So we have a current leader in Ireland today actually saying that he doesn't agree with Ireland. He's handing himself onto the globalisation, and that really typifies what a mainstream politician is. And what we've did is we've learned about David Cameron, and we've shown David Cameron to be a charlatan, an absolute political charlatan, where he promises one thing, and then when something happens, well, he just goes back on his word. And we've shown Boris Johnson to be exactly the same. And I just hope that what we can do is that we can recover our own DUP. Now, I have to say, I'll hand credit where it's due, and I know that I'm going to get a bit of flack on this chat stream here by saying this here, but there were certain individuals today, whether that be Sammy Wilson, whether that even be Jeffrey Donaldson. I noticed that Jeffrey was under a lot of pressure when he was answering questions tonight on the television screen. But you know something, they've only themselves to blame. And you know, that's my get out clause here. They have only themselves to blame, because they have put themselves in this position. They have failed to stand up for the needs of the people of Northern Ireland. They have failed to, as Arlene Foster said on that little video clip, is that here's my red line, and you know, we're not going to cross that red line. But today in 2020, it's as if that red line didn't exist. And for that, I blame the DUP. And you know, there's no greater party than than the UUP, the party of Carson, the party that really should be defending, protecting, enhancing the United Kingdom and everything that we stand for. But you know something? What did they do to us? They dispense with us. Also, they signed up to this farce of a Good Friday Belfast Agreement, and they set in place, and I will use these terms again in its embryonic form, the breakup of the United Kingdom, because it was that very appeasement process. It was that document that was drawn on a thing called constructive ambiguity, and that was admitted on national television by Tony Blair's chief aide, Jonathan Powell. He said that if that document hadn't been laced with constructive ambiguity, that they wouldn't have had an agreement. And what he was effectively saying, he was saying that if that document didn't mean one thing to one set of people and one thing to another set of people, well, you see, they would have never got that agreement across the line, the finishing line. And the reality is, people, and this is something that is really serious, it is that very document on which that the entire Brexit process hinged upon. They said that they had to respect that entire agreement, that internationally recognized agreement, that internationally recognized farce, which was drawn in constructive ambiguity. And people, here's a claim, a big one, but it isn't worth the paper that it's written on. So there's the farce that we find ourselves in, and that's what our own politicians, our mainstream politicians, are not telling ordinary people. So isn't it time that we as people, we stood together and we delivered a clear and a consistent message to our mainstream politicians? It's over. It's over, and it has to stop. And if you don't do something about it, well, we the people, we're going to team together right around the United Kingdom, and we're going to take back what's rightfully ours. Over to you, Ian. If you just like to take our direct democracy party in. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I mean, yeah, that was a long lead in. I mean, really, what the five-star direct democracy party is about is changing the political system and structure. Yes, we realize that we still need to have people to represent us and to form a government. We realize, though, that the current party political system is flawed. So what we're proposing is a combination of a couple of things. Primarily, though, is to have people elected as true representatives of their constituencies based on their talents and abilities to listen and represent. Nothing more, nothing less. You're not looking at people then that would be in those positions for extended periods of time, you know. But to back that up then is, you know, the idea that you have a system in every area to reach out to the constituents, so that the constituents can tell you where they stand on the issues of the day. So for mundane or more mundane tasks, then your MPs, or whatever we would be called at that point, would stand up in Parliament and represent their constituents and come to decisions. But the difference would be if we had major changes to laws. We're very much in favor of national referenda for those situations. And for me, that's really it. It's replacing the career politicians. It is getting people involved in real politics, things that change their lives, their communities, their families' futures. All backed up by a Bill of Rights and a Constitution. Bill of Rights defining what our inalienable rights are as citizens and subjects of the Crown, and then a Constitution that defines how government should be structured, what government can do, and nothing more than what's specified therein. And we're going to do that. We're going back through a whole bunch of historic documents. Most people think of Magna Carta, but you've got the Bill of Rights, the Petition of Rights, you've got these Acts of Union. They all have very important concepts in there that need to be rolled forward, just like our friends across the ocean did when they had their Revolutionary War and broke away from us. they went through a very similar process then to define what the rights of a US citizen are and what your governments can do at different levels. And we just think that is so important. People don't realize that right now, every 4 or 5 years, we elect a government here, and that government is really unrestrained in what it can do. There is no method of appeal that we have. We don't have a separate Supreme Court that's separate from the political system. And even the one that we have really has no definitive legal constitutional document with which to reference. So that's the key to it all. And we invite you all to get involved one way or another. Come aboard and join us, and I'm sure James will tell you a bit more here.
Yeah, over to you, James.
Yeah, Ian's gone into a lot of detail there. If you want to get more of a flavour, do visit 5dd.uk, a very short website, 5dd.uk. You can get information on what the basic. Obviously, you got a flavour for the basics of the party's constitution. We're fully in support of the United Kingdom. We actually don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. A lot of people are very annoyed with the Houses of Parliament, whatever, but do a Guy Fawkes show or whatever. They want to get rid of the House of Lords because that's corrupted, and they've got a problem with courts. You've seen it all sorts of institutions. We're not really one. Let's throw the baby out with the bathwater. We don't want to completely revolutionise. What we want to do is say, hey, look, guys, this is what we've forgotten. And as Ian referred to Magna Carta, the 1689 Bill of Rights, the Acts of the Union, the Acts of Petition, these rights that were won and fought for, that we've literally just forgotten. And we have politicians who literally, when you meet them, I'm elected to a very small council with a small budget, but the culture is pervasive. It's everywhere. What they're really about, the Labour Party or the Conservative Party, is it's vote farming, because votes give them the power. Then because what they want is the power, so they have control of a budget that they can spend in whatever way they have chosen. What they say to the public is whatever they think the public want to hear from them to get the votes. They have no interest in spending money prudently. They've no interest in spending money that's going to benefit their constituents. Any Labour voters who might be listening, if you're a Labour voter in a Labour town, if you're a Labour voter in a non-Labour town, if you're a Conservative, it doesn't matter. Go visit Labour constituencies that have had Labour representation for 100 years, 70 years. There's a reason why they are run down, dumps, and impoverished. And that's because the Labour Party sucks every single thing that they can get out of that community for their collectivist ends, whilst saying to that community, you're poor because of the nasty Tories. And it's a simple emotional trap, and so direct democracy. Ian and I are part of a direct democracy. We submit authority to the electorate, and that's our starting point. I've got strong views, as you can probably pick up on many, many things. I don't want to impose my views on other people, I want to be left alone in life and not be interfered with by the government. I don't want the government telling me this, that, and the other. I don't want them getting in the way of me doing business. I don't want them getting in the way of me and a bit of basic advice that I might want to get from your local doctor, for heaven's sake. But you can't get away from it. The people, the globalists, the Labour Party, they've taken over the Labour Party, Tories, they're not going to forget about it. They're not going to leave you alone. They're not going to allow the union to flourish. They've got other ideas. It's a war. And if you want to be a passive observer, the war will be lost. The war will be won when decent people who want a decent country and a decent society for themselves, will come forward. So we submit to the people's will. And that has such fantastic repercussions for policy. Because we submit to the people's will and we don't get together in a little cabal and a cluster and say, well, this is our energy policy and this is our policy on nuclear deterrent, or this is our policy on whether there should be, I don't know, a big charge made for Irish truckers who want to use our roads to get as a shortcut to get to Europe. I'm in favour of charging Irish truckers a premium for using our roads, by the way. But these decisions are going to be made by the people. The direct democracy actively courts what people think. We want to know what people think, because the way to future politics is making sure that the public drive how we go forward within the confines of a constitution, a Bill of Rights, which absolutely protects the individual from tyranny or from the government. The individual always has to be prime. You always has to have the right to defend themselves and their property. Always, and that needs to be not only protected and defended by a government, which is clearly what it's failing to do and has failed to do. Not only has it failed to do it, it's actively undermined our rights. So under that banner, we will court all forms of expertise, because our platform is a direct democracy platform. Somebody's got an idea. Policy development comes from the grassroots. Grassroots wanted to get out from under the thumb of the EU, and grassroots people want to get out from under the thumb of the corrupt Lib-Lab-Con, Liberal Democrats, Labour, Conservative Party. And yeah, that's why we're here, and that's what motivates us. We're standing against the globalists who are destroying our country from within. So please do visit 5dd.uk. You'll come across rather feisty characters like me and calmer characters such as Ian. We're a mixed bag. But we've all got one united thing. We respect the people, we respect democracy, and we absolutely 100% believe in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Yeah. Well, I would like to thank the two of you for coming on the stream this evening, and no doubt you will be coming on more and more and more as the weeks and as the months goes on, and as each time that we hear the unpalatable being delivered, because that's one thing for sure. They say that there's two things that's sure in life, that's death and taxes. Well, look, the unpalatable, we'd like to add three things, because we are sure to have unpalatable decisions coming from our politicians on a regular basis. So watch this space. And look, I would like to again thank you from the bottom of my heart. I would like to thank the people that has joined us on the stream, that has stayed consistently good with the numbers, that has provided the live chat there. And the live chat was really, really good this evening. So again, to the people that is watching this evening, if we stand together, if we team together, if we work together, what we can do is that we can make ourselves strong. Because I like to say that we is always better than I. And when good people stand together, when like-minded individuals stand together, well, you can achieve a lot. And something, what it does is it sends a message to the politicians, to the mainstream politicians. I mean, they just do not listen to us. And if we can manage to show that we have a platform here with good numbers, we're attracting the right people, we're attracting people in their numbers, we're attracting people from right around the United Kingdom. Well, together we are strong. And it doesn't matter. Look, listen, on the 1st of January 2021, if Boris Johnson and if Michael Gove has made some sort of a dirty deal with the EU, well, something? As a British unionist living in Northern Ireland who voted to leave the European Union, I mean, I'm not accepting it. This is my right. I will not accept anything that is coming down my line to be imposed from the EU. I mean, I'll probably be like some of those people in the past that has fought tooth and nail. And I'm talking about with using weapons of words. I'm not talking about fighting physically. I'm talking about fighting in a way that brings people together, in a way that exposes politicians for every wrong decision and every wrong utterance that they make. We need to be there, ready, willing, and able to expose them, because that is where our real fight is today. It's not with the continuous problems that they keep putting in our place, which takes us off the real track, which has us focusing on the wrong things. What we need to do is we need to watch with a hawk-like eye our own mainstream politicians, and we need to identify what they're doing. We need to look at their every word. And you know something, people? We can teach people right around the United Kingdom to do exactly the same, to listen for the words, to listen to what they're saying, to listen to the key words, as James has pointed out, when they're talking about Build Back Better, when they're talking about the Great Reset, when they're talking about all these buzzwords, which are globalist words. And when we see the talking heads on the media, which mean us the most harm. I mean, I was watching the media just this morning, and I just thought to myself, you know, they're in lockstep. There's another keyword for you. They're in lockstep, and they're marching together. And what they're doing, I mean, there's no investigative journalism now today in the Western world. In fact, in the wide world, whatever happened to journalists that went out and investigated things? Yes, they will. They'll go in and they'll investigate things that they think that they want to use on the other side of what that is that they believe in an ideological way. They'll poke and they you know, I mean, what have we got in the mainstream media today? We've got activists. We haven't got journalists. And one of the things that I desperately need, I desperately want, what we did is we actually petitioned the DUP to help us to achieve this. We, as a people in the United Kingdom, we need mainstream media capability. We need to be able to go toe to toe with the mainstream media. We need to be able to expose them for what it is that they're pushing upon people. And we need a propaganda watch. That's exactly what we need in all constituent parts of the United Kingdom, because propaganda is what we're being fed on a daily basis. And that propaganda isn't conducive to keeping people together. It's all about divide and conquer. One of the greatest strategies that the world has ever seen. And you know something? I have a document, and I must produce the document next week, and we'll put it on our screen. And you know, and we're seeing the government now. This is a document that was made public after a certain number of years, but it actually says that they're capable of persuading 70% of the people. 70% of the people. And isn't it interesting that they're talking about that at least 70% of the people will eventually take these inoculations, I'll use that word. And you know, just remember that word and listen for that 70%, because that's what they think that they control. The social media, I have to say, it changed it for a number of years, but now what happens is they're using the social media to literally steer people away from the truth and to shoot down and to shout down the reality. And you know, the people, here's what they say: if it seems too good to be true, it normally is. And as for Boris and his cohorts delivering Brexit, well, I wrote a piece just before the European the election, or the European referendum. It was 3 months before the EU referendum, and here's what the title of that piece was: Hotel California, Brussels. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. And I wish I had taken that piece to the bookmakers, because who knows what sort of odds I would have got. But anyway, look, thank you very much for the people on the screen. Thank you to the guests. And we look forward to next Monday evening. And please message us, please join with us, please pledge your support, and please invite your family and your friends to come and join with us, because people, together we are strong. So we're just going to play out with a song that I have to say that every time that I hear this song, what it does with me is that it stirs up emotions within me. And as I say, I'm glad that you can't see me on the screen whenever I play this song, because the tears come to my eyes and it stirs up a sense of, patriotism within me. And it means a lot to me. It means a lot to the people in Northern Ireland, and it should, and I hope it will, mean a lot to people right around the United Kingdom. So I would like to just play this song. I would say to the people that are here tonight, our guests, don't go anywhere. We'll have a chat whenever the screen closes. And it's a good night from me. And would you just like to say good night, lads? And we'll play this tune.
Yeah, thanks ever so much for inviting us on, John, and thanks for all that you do. Keep speaking to truth to power.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good
Ian?
night, John, James, everybody watching. I hope you got something out of this, and hopefully we'll be hearing more from you as well. Thanks.
Yeah, here we go.
Just across the Irish Sea stirs a heart of loyalty, raised in honor and indignity, drives a will to keep us British free. Not alone are we on this journey, for in a land just across the sea, it's a hand that reaches out in friendship, and a bond that's lasted centuries. Let the cry be no surrender, let no one doubt our loyalty, reaching out to the brave red hand of Ulster is the hand across the sea. Not alone are we on this journey, or in a land just across the sea, it's a hand that reaches out in friendship, is the hand across the sea, is the hand across the sea.